Hello guys, thank you so much for coming back on this channel to watch this video again. In this video, I'll talk about why I think Marvel should be worried about the future. Now before I kick off with this video, I'm going to give you a disclaimer that this is just my opinion. You have every right to disagree or agree with me. Now I'm going to split this entire video into two different parts. The first part is going to be the Infinity Saga, which consists of Phase 1, Phase 2 and Phase 3. And the second part of this video would be the Multiverse Saga, which is still going ahead with Phase 5. So prior to Marvel Cinematic Universe, back in 2005, Marvel Entertainment had begun planning to produce its own films independently and distribute them through Paramount Pictures. Because previously Marvel has co-produced with different studios, for example Columbia Pictures, New Line Cinema, those films weren't making as much big profit for Marvel itself. So they decided to create its own studio called Marvel Studios, and they decided to put Kevin Feige as the chief head of this Marvel Studios. And Kevin Feige decided to build its own cinematic universe referenced as Marvel Cinematic Universe. Marvel Cinematic Universe kicked off with Phase 1, which consists of 6 films, starting with Iron Man and ended with the Avengers. It cost them around about $1 billion, but the box office they made was $3.8 billion out of these 6 films. And as I mentioned, Phase 1 introduced us to the Avenger Project characters, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, which in the Phase 1 they deal with this alien artifact which is called Tesseract, and this become one of the big Infinity Stones down the line. They come together in this big epic film to fight against this alien to save the planet. Moved on to Phase 2, which also consisted of 6 films again. And in the same way as Phase 1, it cost them $1 billion to produce all these 6 films. However, this time around the box office was $5.269 billion. Now in this phase, Avengers deal with different threats across different films. They deal with the consequences caused by the alien invasion in the last Avengers movie, and at the same time S.H.I.E.L.D. got dismantled due to being a Hydra secret organization. And the main threat in this phase was Ultron, which was an artificial intelligence created by Tony Stark.
I had strings, but now I'm free.
And then we moved on to the best phase for this Infinity Saga, Phase 3. Now this was the biggest phase Marvel had in the Infinity Saga, which consists of 11 films which cost them $2.4 billion to produce. However, the box office return on these films was $13.5 billion. This was the phase where Avengers were struggling, they had a civil war with each other, and they finally get to fight the main big villain, which has been foreshadowed in the previous movies, in the previous phases. Now this was your Infinity Saga. This is where the Marvel was best at. With this story arc, you dealing with the characters which actually mean something. There's big stakes, and there is this big main villain, Thanos, which is on the backdrop collecting all these different stones. We get introduced to more characters, and those more characters had their own story arcs going within that phase. It summarizes all of these characters in the big epic way, which I don't think is going to happen again. And this is where Marvel set the standards for how to do a big long story arc across different films. And at the end, all those original characters which started this Marvel Cinematic Universe were gone, and you had new generation who was going to be taken on and leading into the Multiverse Saga. And then we had a new beginning with a new story arc called the Multiverse Saga. Multiverse Saga actually kicked off with Phase 4. Phase 4 was slightly different. They introduced 9 different TV projects along with 7 different films across 2 years. This is altogether 16 different projects within 2 years. Now when we're talking about the feature films, it cost them $1.5 billion to produce, and the profit was $5.7 billion. Now we do bear in mind we had a COVID which you have to take into account. However, the only movie which was the most successful out of the Phase 4 of Spider-Man No Way Home. That movie alone made up nearly 2 billion, 1.9 billion. And then when the Phase 4 ended, we started off with Phase 5. Now look at Phase 4 and 5 so far. The quality has dropped quite a bit. There was so much oversaturation of characters or projects within that 2 years period. Characters feel very different to the previous phases we had before. Now when you're dealing with a multiverse, you have to be very careful. You have different timelines going at the same time, and you need to make sure all of these timelines are connected and they make sense at the end of your whatever your phases would be. We had TV shows like Loki, which I loved it. Loki ended to show you kind of a consequence, which it doesn't play into Doctor Strange and it doesn't play into Spider-Man No Way Home. Now all these films are dealing with multiverses, including the TV projects, but they don't seem to have a real threat. There's no real consequence behind it. Then we have different TV projects like the Marvel, Moon Knight deals with different dimensions, which doesn't play into bigger picture, and they kind of its own pocketed universes, while we also dealing with the multiverses. Now the main big villain and the main threat in this multiverse saga is Kang the Conqueror, but the character itself, Kang the Conqueror, in the live action adaptation, I don't see as a big threat. It's not nowhere near as big of a threat as Thanos was, which is a problem now because everything is around Kang the Conqueror, which has been teased in the Loki, teased in across different films. When I watch the Ant-Man and when I watch the post-credit scene where you see all the different Kangs, honestly, I was laughing in the cinema. This was the first time I felt there was an actor who was trying to play a character rather than being the character. And I don't have anything against Jonathan Major, and it doesn't seem to get any better right now. You had Phase 4, which has ups and downs. The best movie out of them was Spider-Man No Way Home, but the rest of the films were just okay or average. Same goes for the TV shows. Some TV shows were garbage, just like She-Hulk. Even you had some characters which I love, Daredevil, which I cannot wait to watch the new upcoming TV show. But this Daredevil felt very different to the Daredevil I knew from the Netflix series.
Morning.
There's plenty of examples right now, and this is not what the Marvel was supposed to be. We're supposed to be seeing this big epic moments, a big epic CGI, which is not present anymore. And the problem is Marvel is continuing to produce all of these TV shows and all of these feature films for these phases. It's more like a tick box exercise rather than focusing on the quality or focusing on what made Marvel Cinematic Universe what it is today. It makes you feel like Marvel is now focused at the quantity rather than quality. Now Marvel can turn this around, but when they start focusing on the quality, and the quality is right now, which is an issue with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think this is a point where Marvel should look back and course correct of what's going on right now, because if they don't, they're going to be in the trouble. Now don't get me wrong, I would still go and watch the Avengers movies, and I cannot wait to watch the Blade, the Fantastic Four, even the Daredevil series. And this is just my opinion. What do you guys think? Do you agree with my opinion or do you disagree? Now either way, let me know in the comment section down below. So until then, look after yourself guys. Have a good one.